All right, doctor. Thanks for coming in here, Tisha. Yeah, I'm always on the chatting. You're everywhere in that social network, and one of the people that actually been in the crowdfunding from the day one. So I'm a fan. Great to be here, and you know Rodney and everybody. I'm just and we have here. So sit down. Yeah, Charles. Charlie, sit. We're going to have 10 minutes with Charlie, and glad you come all the way from the Boston area here. And CFPA is one of the frontiers on the crowdfunding. They put their necks out there, beginning with so they were one of the people, actually, the great group. And I know a lot of people in here, a couple of people that they're members. And Charlie, we're going to explain to you about what is they have planned for the CFPA, and we got the last, so it's all yours, Charlie. Thank you. Thank you for the good things you do.
Thank you, and likewise, Sydney. How do I make this show on the screen? Technology. Okay, well, we have some technology challenges. I thank Sydney for giving me this few minutes to tell you about the Crowdfunding Professional Association, which is intimately involved in everything we're talking about here today. So what is the CFPA? It is the crowdfunding industry's neutral, nonprofit umbrella trade organization. It has a member-elected board. It has an advisory council of pioneers and luminaries from the field. It deliberately encompasses all forms of crowdfunding, from donation to rewards to securities-based. And I do want to put in a little plug that when we talk about securities-based here, we often slip into equity. Debt is equally security-based. And the motto, the mission statement of the CFPA is working for the success of every fundraiser and their supporters by providing education, resources, and assistance to all stakeholders in the crowdfunding community. Notice that we really focus on the intended beneficiaries, the entrepreneur issuers, and the supporting investors or supporters. And we work with everybody in the field. Well, that's not really what we want, but not my picture. Okay, so I'll just talk to you. Okay, so I just want to give you just 30 seconds of why I am here. My background is medical and business academic. I was a professor for many years in medical and business schools. I've been an innovator my whole career. Future deals, that's better. Entrepreneurs, the whole economy would benefit and benefit my work that I do. But then there are three sort of not self-interested reasons for my being involved. First is that in the past, access to this asset class has been limited to only the very wealthiest few percent. The Jobs Act enables everybody to participate. Secondly, in the past, people like me, professional investors, invest only in the few percent of highest growth enterprises. The Jobs Act, particularly through debt, will enable all kinds of worthy businesses to get funding and support. And thirdly, and this has not been generally acknowledged by the speakers today, but I am more and more impressed as time goes on by how profoundly and democratically disruptive crowdfunding is, not just in a business sense, but in a social and governmental and justice sense, because government is not working real well these days. And the business and financial structures aren't working real well for everybody. Crowdfunding has enormous potential to disrupt and change that playing field. And I personally believe that that's some of the reason for some of the resistance to crowdfunding, because it is inherently threatening a lot of the status quo. Okay, so I got involved. I was one of the founders of the CFPA and sibling organizations, but about 6 months ago, I managed to get the bylaws rewritten, and I became one of the new directors who were elected last fall, and I was elected president of the organization. So now I stand before you putting a lot of time and energy into this as a public service. Now, what does the CFPA do? And this is one of the crux matter of why you should all care. We continue to engage in advocacy from the global, national, state, and professional levels. I can and regularly do go to Washington and speak with legislators. I believe I had some input into Representative McHenry's current suggested modifications. I've worked closely with the SEC. I personally believe they're trying to do a very good job under very challenging circumstances. I have the highest regard for them. And when the rules become operative, they will not be perfect, obviously. They won't be everything that all of us asked for, but they will be a whole lot better than what we had 3 years ago. And we will take significant advantage from that, as well as continue to work for their improvement. We conduct events and education all over the world, internationally to locally. Sydney has invited me to several of his events. Next week I'll be speaking in front of 3,000 to 4,000 entrepreneurs in Miami, as 2 examples. We operate are putting together a resource directory of services offered by our organizational members and sponsors in the CFPA. So if you want to spread what you do and make it known to be taken advantage of by the whole world of crowdfunding, you should join the CFPA as a professional, or excuse me, as a corporate member or a sponsor. These resources are made known to everybody who looks at our website, but only the offerings of our members are included in the list. We are preparing recommended deal terms and legislative templates. The legislative templates were mentioned by Brian Korn, one of my fellow directors. The recommended deal terms are really important because all sorts of deal structures are legal. And I know as a professional investor that some of them are so bad that I wouldn't touch one with a 10-foot pole. Most crowdfunding investors don't have that experience and sophistication, so we are preparing a list and some template documents of some of the deal terms that should be in every single crowdfunding transaction. Otherwise, buyer beware, you shouldn't really consider it. We're offering third-party review and correction and question resources for education programs. Lots of educational programs are available and becoming offered. They all have merit. They're all offered by competent people. I'm being generous here. But they don't do all the same things, and we're trying to increase the clarity about that. We have a members communication and collaboration channel where every member of the organization can communicate with every other member, and people have already used that channel to solicit input, to solicit collaborations, and it's a great way if you're an entrepreneur or a service provider or any participant in the community to work with colleagues. We have something that I call, in quotes, Ask Dr. CF. Dr. CF is Dr. Crowdfund, and any member can call us directly or email us directly and ask for some advice. We'll provide a user feedback and experience repository, kind of like a Better Business Bureau, that these parties or these deals have been satisfactory or less than that. And in the inevitable cases of not seeing eye to eye between participants in the field, we will offer voluntary mediation assistance if it's acceptable to both parties. So you can join the CFPA as an individual, as a corporation, or as a sponsor, or as a student, or as a member of an affiliated organization. You can do that by going to the CFPA website, which is cfpa.org. For innovators and entrepreneurs, we will help you raise your money and build your crowd effectively. For the supporters and the investors, we will educate you as to what's a good deal, what you should look for. And for the service providers and platforms and legal experts, etc., we can help you publicize what you offer to the world. In this year alone, in 2014, I and my colleagues will get the crowdfunding message and the CFPA message and the message of the CFPA's corporate members and sponsors out to between 40 and 50,000 entrepreneurs. In this room, most of the people already are up to speed on crowdfunding. We're preaching to the choir here. It's the in-crowd. CFPA is the best channel I know of for getting the message and the offerings of this community out to the greater world that we all believe needs them. So we are operational. One case study that I think is really illustrative of why the CFPA is needed, the Oculus story, which you're all probably pretty much aware of. 10,000 Kickstarter supporters contributed a little over $2 million to a virtual reality goggle. That led to $38 million of VC money coming in very shortly thereafter, and that led to a $2 billion exit by Kickstarter. Now those 10,000 by Facebook, those 10,000 Kickstarter supporters got exactly what they were promised. Nothing except the virtual reality goggles. But many people feel that they were not treated fairly, that since their dollars started the whole success story going, that they should have had the opportunity to have a stake in that success. Well, that's what Title III is going to allow. They couldn't do it when Oculus started, but next year, hopefully, this will be possible. Could Oculus have had this wonderful success without the crowdfunding supporters? I don't think so. The venture capitalists wouldn't have had something to invest in. Facebook wouldn't have invested. But if Oculus had made use of a Title III-like transaction that wasn't done really right, would the VCs have put in their next money, and would Facebook have wanted to buy it out? I think the answer is, if it's done right, as we are one of the only parties indicating how we can make this process work for the future Oculus of the world, and if it's done poorly, the rewards-based and the securities-based forms of crowdfunding may be in competition. So my bottom line message is there are some flyers in the next room. It would have been on the screen, but it isn't due to technical issues here. Take one of those flyers. The contact information is there. My personal phone number, and I get all the emails. I have made the commitment that we are going to provide the most diligent, attentive service to this industry that we can and do everything in our power to make it a success. Ideas, suggestions are always welcome. My closing note, the CFPA is the crowdfunding community. The crowdfunding community is CFPA. Everybody with an interest or an activity in this should join to help direct, to help steer the ship, to help inform, and allow us to together shape the best possible crowdfunding community and economy that we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Charlie, I just had a question for you. If anybody wants to know about the membership for audience at home and people that we broadcast at the Crowdfunding, what are they got to go? What's your website?
CFPA.org.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate it. Good work you do for crowdfunding industry. I know you travel all the time. I want to bring a couple of our sponsors over here. Maybe I just want to talk to here. Come. I want to talk to you. I want to just briefly, before we start the panel, talking about he's come all the way from Florida, got great the young man. Tell us what you do and your company. Introduce over here. Introduce yourself as yours. Just give you got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Herwig. I'm actually a University of Miami student dropout to pursue a business full-time that I've been working on called Accredify. And Accredify is a little different from other verification services because we make the customer the investor. And so we charge $49 a year for them to have access to our verification forms and then give them a certificate that they can then reuse everywhere that accepts our certificates. We today actually announcing at this conference released our API, which is being used by Sterling Funder, Patrick Land, DLC, and several other platforms
Testing.
to
1, 2,
make
baby.
it very simple, actually instant, like Facebook Connect, to log into a platform, instantly share your accreditation, and have compliance be taken care of immediately. And it's, of course, a free tool to use for the industry.
Get a microphone. What is your platform does? Who goes to the investors or so?
Yep. So investors are the ones who come to this platform. It's a tool created for them because we feel that this is an industry that's not really covered for investors. So we believe that we will continue to create tools and products for investors to use to make crowdfunding easy and feasible.
Who's benefiting? So investors basically they pay that $49 to be accredited.
The reason they pay that $49 is because, as we may have noticed today, it's an onerous process to continue to give out your financial information to deal after deal, to platform after platform. It's something nobody wants to do. So by using our certificates, you limit that exposure completely because our certificates are completely compliant with the SEC. So it's an instant and free process for platforms to use. So really, the industry benefits from it.
So your API is going to handle embed with the existing platform, correct?
Yep. In fact, it's already live in several platforms and more as we speak. So,
what's the website if anybody out there at home and want to go to know more about your great thing, your company?
Yeah, if you're interested in or a high net worth individual that's looking to start to invest online, please visit accredify.co and learn more about what it means to become an accredited investor and to start taking advantage of crowdfunding.
There was for audience that they have problems like me with the spelling bees. How do you spell it?
So Accredify is it's spelled ACC because of the word accredited, ACCREDIFY.co.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being the sponsor of us. Appreciate it. Good luck with your ventures and welcome to the crowdfunding industry. Next panel, we're gonna have the final. We put the best for the last for the best. So I'm great to have my friends in here, Rodney, and we're going to be talking about business of crowdfunding. We had Jeff, and welcome Jeff, and Joseph Holm, Roy, and we have right here Peter, and Peter's great. I'm glad you're here, Peters, because you handle a lot of those great. Crowdfunding films and other studios and all those things. So basically, let me give you a microphone here. I think I have a wireless here. Yeah, we got it. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna be just. Oh, where are you? Come on in. Come on down. Come on down. Hey, I'm sorry. I must be. Come on down. Come on. Let me get your chair over here, please. You came all the way from LA here and said, "Hey, ladies first." I apologize. We're gonna probably gonna a lot of hate mails from the audience. Come on down there. I was sit down.
Maybe we should move the whole table over this way a little.
Yeah, we're just gonna do that. Yeah, this is a very. The panel is a business of the crowdfunding.
Very important panel.
Yeah.
Okay, Scooter.
If your Michael's coming in help, that's great. That's you're all for it. Okay, and you guys, we have a timing here, which is pretty good. And okay, that's good. We already have. Let's just be kind of a open discussion here. All right.
Can everybody give us your business card so we can contribute?
Yeah. We should say it's 4:30, and well, Letitia, thank you. Dr. Letitia Wright, could you introduce yourself? Tell us what do you do to the audience. We know you. We know all the good thing, and you have a lot of followers. I know that I'm one of them, actually. You have your own TV channel. I'm going to give you the mic. Could you go ahead and just introduce one and tell them exactly what you guys do? So.
I'm Dr. Letitia Wright. I am a crowdfunding strategist, and what I've been doing for the last 3 years is teaching entrepreneurs about crowdfunding. I do take private clients and do their whole campaign for them, but my main thing is that entrepreneurs, especially women and minorities, don't even know what crowdfunding is. So I teach for the Small Business Administration, I teach for the SBDC, I also teach for MBA programs at Cal State San Bernardino, but tomorrow I'll be at Mom 2.0 at Ritz-Carlton teaching crowdfunding. Literally, when he said minorities and women are not really raising that much money, they literally don't know about it. And I talk to all entrepreneurs. So my Twitter is got mostly males, you know, the Apple buyers, because they want to know what I'm talking about. But I love entrepreneurs having this information and being able to use it for themselves. So primarily, I'm teaching and training about crowdfunding.
Roy Morejon, drove down 85 from Charlotte to be here. I run a digital marketing agency that basically works with startups and crowdfunding, basically helping them present their case as far as marketability of their product on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or some of the smaller crowdfunding platforms out there. We were one of the leaders in the space. We've been doing this for about 3.5 years. We've successfully funded over 85 projects, raising nearly $6 million for our clients. So we work with them full service from beginning the product, setting up their foundation as far as website, social media, engaging with their communities, and then running their full marketing campaign throughout, and then retaining them thereafter to help them continue with pre-sales of their products.
Hey there, my name is Peter Stathopoulos. I'm a entertainment and tax attorney. Work with two firms. Bennett Thrasher is a consulting firm, and Macy Walensky is a law firm. I work with entertainment clients who are interested in crowdfunding, whether that be traditional reward-based or equity crowdfunding to fund their entertainment projects. I think crowdfunding has some unique appeal to the entertainment industry in that you're selling sizzle, you're selling ideas, you're selling concepts, not so much a return on investment. And that's really usually the last thing investors want to talk about. They're usually much more excited about the concept and the sizzle. So it's a great marriage of two industries if we can make crowdfunding work for the entertainment industry.
Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good to see you again. Thanks for the invite. My name is Jeff Bekiares, and I am an attorney by trade, practiced securities law for about 7 years here in the great state of Georgia. And then about 1.5 years ago, I left full-time practice to co-found Spark Market, which is an intrastate only crowdfunding platform here in Georgia. And I'm currently the chief operating officer, as well as, I suppose, general counsel and chief calisthenics officer and janitor at Spark Market. I spend every morning making promises. I spend every afternoon trying to figure out how I'm going to fulfill those promises the next day, which makes me, I suppose, a true entrepreneur at this point. We, as far as I know, our platforms closed the first successful securities-based crowdfunding raise in the United States last fall. And we're working on more. We're working on a project with Dr. Rodney Sampson now. So thanks. Good to be here.
Thank you. Did you learn how to play that Bohemian guitar the last time I had an interview with you? I had trouble with it.
Poorly, I'm afraid. I don't have a budding career in the music industry.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
afraid.
Well, good.
Yeah, so.
Good to know. Joseph, welcome. All the way from California. You got a great brand. Tell us what you do for the audience.
First of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for putting on this great event, Sydney. This is really important for our young industry. My name is Joseph Holm. I'm an internet entrepreneur of about 17 years. Started building websites, got into social media, affiliate marketing, business development, and about 2 years ago I learned about crowdfunding. Pretty much dropped everything else I was doing because I thought this is the most disruptive and wonderful thing that I've seen in my career. I've since then launched a crowdfunding platform for YouTubers and digital video creators called CubeStart. We're different from Indiegogo or Kickstarter in that we offer features and crowdfunding models that other platforms don't offer. We've spent a lot of time working out the pain points. As many of you know, and everybody here probably, crowdfunding is a completely different game in each vertical. So we're trying to conquer the digital entertainment video market.
Okay, Dr. Simpson. I think we can pick up the microphone and it will be comfortable. I think we have another one right here too.
My name is. Watch that. My name is Rodney Sampson, and the only thing I can say I can claim is being in the new creative for South by Southwest 2015 with Joseph that just came out today. So that was pretty cool. Seriously, I'm a local angel investor. I own a co-working space here locally called the Opportunity Hub, located in downtown Atlanta in the old historic Macy's building. It's about 10,000 square foot co-working space. Authored a book about 2 years ago entitled Kingonomics, 12 Innovative Currencies for Transforming Your Business and Life, inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Became a bestseller, and we turned that into a conference that we convene annually, sometimes twice a year, where we attract about 1,000 adults and 500 teens. Last year, we held the conference in Washington, D.C. during the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington to make a statement that it was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and what better way to create jobs and freedom but through the Jobs Act. And we've been on this journey for a couple of years now. What I'm really excited about in terms of our work in crowdfunding is we believe we're about to embark upon the most aggressive equity-based crowdfunding campaign, interstate-based, but of course since Title III is not live, it'll be a national stat, hopefully, with Spark Market as our platform for the general public. And I'm an Atlanta native, by the way.
Okay. Well, we're glad to be in Atlanta. We should say for our audience at home.
For having us.
And yeah, Atlanta is great, and we have through California, and but this is a whole international, and I'm very honored to be, moderating this great panel because, and it's all about the business of the crowdfunding, and you do startup. We have an attorney here, basically does a lot of the entertainment. Dr. Letitia has works with the minority women, and Roy. So this is great. So it's going to be an interesting subject. So the crowdfunding is not only in one segment of the particular industry, so evolve into different, like Joseph, you do at the CubeStart. So let me ask the question. I start from you, Doctor. So how long you been in the crowdfunding industry, and what have you seen? What evolved in your part? You do have a television show. So what do you see? What is the trend? Is it going forward? I know a lot of people are. What do you see? How is going to help women in this?
Oh, absolutely. I've been doing crowdfunding for 3 years, and the way
3
I
years.
got started is with people that were doing films. I have I'm in LA, got friends doing films, and they asked me to help because I'm good with social media. So I did help, but crowdfunding is so close to how independent filmmakers raise money for films. I just thought, okay, they're just raising money for a film. I didn't get that they were crowdfunding. Then I had a personal friend do a project on Kickstarter called A Pug Named Fender. And I got to see a pug named Fender from beginning to end. It clicked, and I thought, oh my gosh, how come people don't know about this? I literally got the teaching job at the SBA because I called them and said, you need a class on crowdfunding. These people don't know about crowdfunding. And they said, oh, what's crowdfunding? So yeah, I'm booked to teach there for the next 3 years. So it's definitely growing. I really want to see women get more involved, get involved in higher amounts. I think it's fabulous. So just like all of us, you fall in love with the possibilities of being free, of trying to get loans, of trying to do this and trying to. It seems very freeing. You're able to build community. Women are very good at building community, and so it just makes sense. So yeah, is it growing? Yes, but people have to understand what it is. And when you ask them, do you know about crowdfunding? They say, well, is it Kickstarter? So the
We
conversation.
call it Kickstarter economy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people over there. Well, that's great. Good work you do, and thanks for just letting everybody knows about the crowdfunding. I think, but I think it's evolving in very much in the women, because we just had in Silicon Valley conferences I just left, and we had a panel just particular about the women in crowdfunding and women entrepreneurs in the crowdfunding. Roy, you help a lot of these Kickstarters and Indiegogo people actually, and the remote crowdfunding. Tell us, what do you see? How much money you raise for them, and what if for people that they want to start the campaign? Because after all, this is education for us. What do they got to do? Dr. Swart was mentioning something that they got to do a good video and good audio. What do you see? What has your experience been?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past 3 years, we've seen a lot of changes, even platform-wise, as far as the due diligence that the platforms are doing now to make sure that these companies are more legitimate, and making sure that they actually have almost a business plan, a business model, and they're not just, oh, I have this idea, let's just throw it out there and see what happens. You have to be more well established at this point and have this documentation in line, the R&D process, what you're thinking of coming out with, and you can't just put an idea out there yet. You have to do all of this work before, as far as engaging the community, seeing if there's updates that you could make on this product. Is it a good idea? Because not every idea is good for crowdfunding, just because of the platform that's out there. So we've seen a shift there. As far as momentum-wise, we work with, a majority of them are in the tech space. We feel like Kickstarter is a great spot for them. We're shifting as far as platforms to launch campaigns on, more towards Indiegogo now due to their advanced analytics and back-end tracking. Kickstarter's analytics are weak, very weak, and we have a hard time discerning where leads came from because they don't track things very well as far as first and last click attribution. And Indiegogo now has the ability to host a campaign on your own website utilizing their Outpost, which is a great resource for you if you don't want to send the traffic to Indiegogo necessarily. Send them to a comfortable website, your website, and they can place their bids on that site. So we're seeing a shift there as far as platform-wise.
Just a follow-up question, and did you see a lot of institutional, not just individual campaigner will come to this market? Because I've seen a lot of movie theaters, some of the products they're coming to. So it's not just some particular putting their project. It could be an institution on this.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing some large brands come into play now as far as like co-producers almost on these projects, kind of being sideline VC investors almost into the platform. Should they raise a certain amount, then you get more money from these companies. So we're definitely seeing a shift there.
And so your companies like you helping them, what do you do for them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a brand positioning for them and figuring out if crowdfunding is a good position for these larger companies to dive into, and picking the right project is really critical for them as well. That aligns with their brand positioning and the product that's being crowdfunded.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Peter, I know we had some interview with you, and then I invite you here to, it was a great interview in crowdfunding. I recommend you to have the Devon.
Thank you.
And but I was very interested in when I was in. I'm actually seeing that the movie industries, they are getting up. And I know a couple of brands actually back in the West Coast and East Coast, and the movie studios are getting to this. What is your experience? You're an attorney for these people. What interests you to get to this crowdfunding?
Sure. Well, the entertainment industry has never had traditional access to capital, at least at the sub-studio level. So independent film producer, and they haven't had access to traditional VC markets. So they've always had a hard time getting the capital. So it's kind of a unique marriage for them to get to crowdfunding, because traditionally they've had to raise it from friends and family, and then there are various other buckets of money to get, but they're very dear. There's foreign pre-sale lending, there's tax credit lending, but there's gap financing, but they're all very expensive money. And so having the opportunity to raise money through crowdfunding is great, and they offer a very interesting product. Rather than a return on investment, they're offering kind of an experience. This is especially on the equity side. You own a piece of a film or a TV show. And so I've had a lot of clients that have been circling around, that have done reward-based campaigns that are really circling around equity. What's kept them out of it is uncertainty about if you raise money through the equity, let's say the Interstate Georgia platform, does that preclude you from raising, private offerings and other buckets of money? And until those issues are resolved, most of my clients are still on the sidelines. But the entertainment industry has always been very innovative about how they raise money. So, for instance, the Hollywood Motion Picture Studios were amongst the first to use the foreign visa program to raise money. They saw a need for Chinese and investors in Dubai, et cetera, who were interested in acquiring visas, and they kind of pioneered that concept about 10 years ago to get capital into the country to work together on film finance projects.
Who are the people actually? We should say that we're in Georgia, so Georgia intrastate. You could do. Can you do equity in Georgia?
I'll defer to my colleague here with the Georgia platform, but yes, Georgia is an exception. Georgia Georgia has an exception to the blue sky rules and allows you to raise. Georgia companies can raise up to $1 million from Georgia residents using Georgia banks in an equity.
So we're going to see. I specifically was asking about films. Has anybody done some equity film crowdfunding here? Not yet.
A lot of them are circling around it because of the uncertainty, but they're very interested in it, and so I expect somebody's going to dive in pretty quick.
So we're not going to have a Deliverance Title 3?
We might.
I should have thrown that. Yeah. Jeff, by the way, I like Burt Reynolds on that movie. I was a kid. Yeah. Jeff, what is going on here? Is this going to be states going to take the matters to their hand? I mean, you were in Wall Street Journal. I mean, you're a national postcard for the intrastate crowdfunding. So it was a big news and it still is. And you did some deals. Tell us about it. What has your experience been? What deal you done? Just for the audience, they don't know. Tell us what you deal.
Sure, no problem. So there's a lot to say, which is great for us and great for the industry, and there's more happening every day. The deal that we did last fall was with a company called Bohemian Guitars. They're kind of an artisanal musical instrument manufacturer, a small shop. A couple of brothers as co-founders, to one extra employee at the time. Now I believe 2 extra employees. And what's been going on with them has been fantastic. Their intrastate campaign was very successful. They met their minimum pretty quickly, closed the campaign early actually, because they had the cash and they were ready to move on back to making guitars. Since that time, and since we talked, actually, they have moved on to bigger and better contracts. They've scaled up their manufacturing. Their orders are going crazy. And I'm happy to announce today, actually, they just announced yesterday, put a press release out, that they've been accepted into the 500 Startups program in Silicon Valley. So they are now, they are now the...
That's a good program.
It's a great program, and they will be the first, as I understand it, the very first non-tech company to be accepted into that program. So... yeah, it's really exciting. It's a big investment in their company, as well as it's like 3 or 4 months of accelerator training and all the rest of it. So we're real excited for them, and their Georgia-based crowdfund investors are real happy today. I promise you. So that's been going on. I do want to say one thing really quickly in response to what else is going on. We are working on a film project now. Actually, we're working on a film project. We've had interest from a few other film projects. I think we're meeting with another potential film project over the next week. They get this. Crowdfunding already is a demonstrated model that works in film. At least that is to say that it attracts crowdfund backers. So we're real excited about it, and based on some of the other incentives we have for the film industry here in Georgia, we're going to see that more and more.
Yeah.
So. Good luck to you.
Let me just say a word about that. Yeah, one unique thing about film is, for equity crowdfunding, is there's already significant federal and Georgia-based incentives for the film industry. So if you're an equity investor in a Georgia crowdfund film, there's a 30% Georgia transferable credit. So your money at risk is already offset by that 30% transferable credit. And Section 181, if it's continued, provides basically accelerated write-off from a federal tax perspective. So an investor in a film project is already starting with a significant portion of their money covered by tax benefits.
So they do have to tax benefit. And that's great that you're mentioning, but that's what I see, a lot of trend, that a lot of people that they go and you help those people actually get national exposure and be in the 500 startup, which is a great program in Silicon Valley over there. But the crowdfunding platform are becoming pre-launching, so there were a couple of actually big projects. One of them just bought out Atlas, about $2 billion, that 2 but with a B, by Facebook. They went to the crowdfunding platform. And so they got attention, they got the market validation, and just recently, was another company, Tile. So a lot of these platform is becoming like you did. They come and the platform, you raise some money, they get some interest, they get market validation, so they go to the next level, being the accelerators, and just raise money to go to full capital. So that's the great things that you work with entrepreneurs and you see them excited. Who knew about these things? And go. And I want to know, Joseph, what do you see over there? You work with a lot of these TubeStart and other thing, and you have a different business model, and it's film. What is TubeStart? I mean, tell us what do you do exactly with the TubeStart, with the entertainers and people, filmmakers? How can you help them to bring their products, their art, more than products out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, like Peter just mentioned before, the entertainment industry has to be very creative when it comes to finding funding for their productions. Web series and YouTubers are no different. They're just like any other indie producer. They just don't get any money from anyone. What they make is their AdSense revenue. Big YouTubers will get branding deals, but there are about a million YouTube creators who get AdSense checks every month, but only a couple of hundred actually are big enough so they can actually support a living and the production costs. So what we're trying to do is we try to help web series creators to make that transition from an amateur producer to a professional producer. And the things that you mentioned before, like market validation and also risk mitigation, are very undervalued things that crowdfunding can bring to the table when it comes to launching a project. So one of the things that is really problematic on YouTube is that people don't get enough money paid out through AdSense. So as opposed to other crowdfunding platforms where you can have a 30, 60, 90-day one-off kind of campaign, one of the things that we do to set us apart is we offer a subscription-based crowdfunding model. So basically, as a creator, you can come and set up a monthly recurring campaign that someone can subscribe to. Give me $5 every month, and as soon as you have enough money in your perk wallet, you can redeem it for a T-shirt or a hat or some other non-monetary reward. That's just one of the things that we're doing. I mean, the whole space in LA, and you know this too, there is so much going on right now, also in crowdfunding. We're bridging two disruptive markets pretty much with digital video and crowdfunding in a new form that Kickstarter and Indiegogo don't offer.
Well, good. I should say that we have a crowdfunding film festival. It's going to be in LA in October 2nd. That this is our second year, so we see a lot of people. A couple of good films being made and successful one. One of them has just won the Oscar last year in documentary in cinema, and this year with Veronica Mars and also with Zach Barth. And so there's a lot of good thing happening. One of the things is that about the crowdfunding and film and it works as like real estate, and I agree with Peter here, because there's the exit in the crowdfunding and film. And also it's not only the filmmakers, filmmakers, they do the money, the Hollywood producers and other people, they're actually they're involved in this because they see it as a crowd collaborations. They're looking for those next trend, where is going to be a next Hunger Game, what are going to be a next Harry Potter's and going to be on that. So they're looking for those keywords on the internet, on the Twitters. So then they will have interest fan in those, and then basically then they're going to raise money on the reward at this time, but not only those guys going to be getting a T-shirt or going to movie, but they're going to be actually collaborating to promoting that particular movie. So they're going to be from the day one, and basically going later on, when the product is finished, so they can go see it. Say, I was part of this movie. My credit will be there. So it's very, very interesting about this movie industry and the crowd collaborations and crowdfunding just being an element of it. So it works. Okay, Doctor, thank you. What do you do? I know you're doing great stuff. I've been following you for years. I read actually your book. You've got a great book, and I got a signature of you. I highly recommend. Tell us about your book, Kingonomics, and you work with a lot of startup. You have a good conference here every year around January. You have a place with all this startup. Come tell us about what you do in the startup world.
Sure. Well, 20 years ago,
Check out this one, yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Yeah, I have to reflect back a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
20 years ago when I was an undergraduate starting my first startup in New Orleans at Tulane University, there were no...
years ago, Rodney, or 20?
20. That's a
You said
good.
the grade. Yeah. You threw me off. I mean, there were no incubators, no accelerators, no co-working spaces, no meetups, no networking. It was like you just had to kind of figure your way out, right? And if you could attach to a mentor who had time to see you. So we started, I mean, just kind of on this journey of how do we create this ecosystem, right? So the fundamental construct of the book is how do we disrupt poverty and the racial wealth gap in America? And so we start looking at, and there are all these types of solutions around understanding the value of a dollar, financial literacy, et cetera, but we saw there's a fundamental gap in an understanding of the innovation, entrepreneurship, and investment, ecosystem. And so we have a philosophy that you cannot withdraw from an ecosystem that you're not invested in. And the reality of it is, when you start looking at, Dr. Schwartz gave some amazing data earlier about how the West Coast was leading, and then you look at pockets on the East Coast. What he didn't point out was Georgia was actually, a visible presence on the map, and I think that's, thanks to like Spark Market, and of course, companies like Masur that Paul Judge is an investor in. They raised $140,000. The seed investor is actually a black male, and the company is actually 2 black co-founders out of Georgia Tech. And the reason I make that distinguishing factor is when you look at the Southeast versus, a Silicon Valley or New York or Boston or even a Texas, like a Austin to some degree, there's a lot of talk about the ecosystem, but these startups, black, white, or indifferent, there's a gap in seed capital and early stage capital. It is really non-existent. It's not like being in Silicon Valley, or even New York has its challenges, but Silicon Valley is kind of the meritocracy, quote unquote, that everybody champions. And, you'll get $50,000 to $100,000 in seed capital, and young, college startups are shopping term sheets because they have options. You get a $10,000 check in Atlanta, and you think you've arrived because that seed capital is incredibly negligible. So a part of our goal is how do we solve that, and how do we do something that's meaningful but also definitive at the same time? So, placing the Opportunity Hub, this co-working space, and now doing this crowdfunding round. The reality is, and Secretary Kent was here earlier this morning, Georgia did a phenomenal job in leading the way in terms of the Invest Georgia exemption, and then the parallel, the angel tax credit that exists as well. So we've got a few different laws on the books that help to kind of speed up. And there's a third one where the state didn't fund it, but at least they appropriated $100 million in venture capital to work with different fund managers around the state. So we're thinking about how do we attract capital that's here already. But no one's really starting to write these checks yet. So we're really trying to solve that challenge, and to see a non-tech company, a consumer product in essence, have crowdfunded, their startup capital, and now pivot to one of the nation's most renowned accelerators. There's a lot of hope for the Southeast and for the nation in general. And I think there's a trend there, and we're starting to do this. We're writing small checks at the Opportunity Hub now. We look to do more through this raise, where we accelerate companies and get them to the point where they can pivot. But who wants to talk about growth capital and SBA loans and all of the things that most entrepreneurs are pointed towards that they can't even get because they have no revenue? So I think crowdfunding has an incredible opportunity to address that disparity. And if we address that disparity across racial lines, across economic, social, any type of social economic line, that's where the impetus of new job creation is, and that's why we're involved in this movement.
That's good. So it's called Opportunity. What's about Opportunity? Which I like the name,
Yeah.
Opportunity Hub.
Opportunity Hub.
So
OHub for short.
So .com, is it to anybody out there wanted in Georgia and other places?
OHub200.com.
OHub200.com. So and these are the people, actually, they're entrepreneurs. They come there and you kind of coach them, and you use crowdfunding as part of their products, basically, so they can just get attentions.
We have a personal goal. So we're incubating about, and I use that word incubation lightly because I know it's misused, but we basically have about 70 companies that are working out of the space right now. So we've got a good core group. We're kind of adding to it daily. We lose a few because they don't get capitalized, but we want that hub to be the home of crowdfunding in the Southeast. We want, when people think about, I have a startup, where do I go to raise my seed capital or my early stage capital? We want them to think, of the opportunity hub.
So that's sum it up. So I'm going to ask the general question. So, we have Dr. Letitia here, and Ray, Laura here, Peter, Jeff, Joseph, and you guys. So you guys are working different aspects of the crowdfunding. You're on, doing startup. Joseph, a filmmaker. You're working with the entrepreneurs out there. You're attorney working with it, and you help people to brand themselves, right? So I want to start with you. What is next for? What are we waiting for? What do you think this Title III and all this? Dr. Swati was mentioning actually earlier and said all these things is happening around the world. What are we for audience at home? You have a lot of expert here among us, and we're sitting down in this, and we put this video together and this live stream. And for somebody new wants to get to this, they heard of Kickstarters and or crowdfunding, and they want to come to this industry, which is evolving in a very phenomenon way. I mean, I see that other aspect of crowdfunding works. And what would you say to people who want to get into this business? How would you do it? How would they go with that? I know they have one thing. They have to go to CrowdFundBeat and read some of the articles that we put together, and that will be a good start for them. No, and that's what we do. And great to have you here so they can hear. What is your advice?
I definitely advise that people start to educate themselves. There's a lot of information out there, but like I said, you rarely walk into a room and say, hey, we're crowdfunding, and everybody other than this room, nobody knows what you're talking about. And so it's highly important that we get the general public, we get the underserved, we get people, even people in the film industry, they are, they're like so clueless as of what it's about. And so I really want to see a lot of education happen. If you're coming into this industry, Kendall said one thing. He said people tell him they want to try crowdfunding. I literally have potential clients saying that every single week. And it's not a try. There's so much money out there. There's so much potential out there. But you've got to have education, and you've got to take some time to do it. And I know you guys have had this experience too. They talk to you for an hour, and they feel like they have your level of education. Yeah. And okay, thanks. I'm ready to go. And it doesn't work like that. We put a lot of study in there. We look at this information every day. We're reading about it. I'm reading everybody else's stuff to keep up on what's going on. Education is a huge key. It is not mainstream yet. You guys are used to it. You guys are excited about it, but it is not mainstream yet.
Not, and that's what we're hoping. Well, what do you think? So how are we going to, I know your company helping a lot of people, brands, and to go and take themselves to the next level, but the crowdfunding starts with the family and friends. It's typical crowdfunding or crowdfunding a lot of people before equity. We're talking reward now. Right. How do they start? I mean, what is your recommendation for somebody's out there? By the way, I think some of these people that they go in the platform and they fail, they don't make the right one, but the good news is there's a data. They can go and find out what they went wrong, and they can restart themselves again. So you get that feedback. So it's not a failure. To me, it's just, just a record to make it to the next level. So what do you think, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not, like I mentioned earlier, not every product is meant for crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And, each platform's a little bit different. We're seeing, differences between the two. But again, like she was saying, research and education is by far the most influential piece as far as going forward with your crowdfunding campaign on the reward side of things. There's a lot of data out there, and there's been thousands and thousands of campaigns. I think Kickstarter has crossed now the 60,000 mark as far as successful campaigns. And they've crossed $1 billion of total funding through their platform. So there's loads of data. I just did an interview last week with a gentleman of Sidekick, which is a predictive analytics platform and software piece that can tell whether or not a campaign will be successful or not pretty much within the first 4 hours to 48 hours. And there's a lot of different factors there, and Indiegogo has a factor, an algorithm called the GoGo factor, and they take into account the project goal, the duration, how much money has been pledged, the frequency, how much time is left, and then they take into account the social shareability, how many shares have been, whether those people were influential. Have they backed other programs? Were those programs successful? And we can find out through all of this data whether or not a campaign will be successful utilizing that historical data and the program and project that you're trying to create.
Well, that's good. I can say that what's the latest on the card? I know the video games are work, but what's the Anderson has the 38 million right now so far is going for his Anderson for the Star Citizen.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, well, Star Citizen is a video game that has been crowdfunded, and they're over 8 million already, and they haven't delivered one product yet, but everybody, and it's unbelievable. I mean, this guy out of the valley, and so nobody talks about it, but he raised 38 million, and I want to add up to that 1 million of 1 billion crowdfunding with Kickstarter, another 2 billion, 3 billion, 2 billion in one deal by itself, not in Kickstarter, outside of the Kickstarter.
Right, outside of it.
Do you see, Peter, that will bring me to the next question. Do you see, as an attorney, you work with a lot of these industries, and you deal with the clients actually, they do have money, they want to use crowdfunding for basically as part of their product. Do you see when Title III in the national level will sooner or later get to that, pass the law? What do you see? These people are stepping to this game, or?
Yeah, I see several things. One, Georgia money really hasn't gotten into the entertainment industry. Yeah. So the entertainment industry is huge right now in Georgia as a production destination. We had a little over $1 billion in expenditures last year for productions here, but Georgia money has not gotten in the game. These guys the money's coming from New York, LA, offshore. So it's a very small community. Once somebody becomes aware that you can successfully raise local money, I think if we have one or two successful campaigns from Georgia money getting into Georgia-based films, it's a small community, word will spread. I think a year from now it'll be an utterly different landscape. We just need to have one successful campaign.
So you're going to see a lot of movies being made in Georgia and other places that they have their crowdfunding?
The movies are being made here now. What we're going to see is Georgia money getting in the game.
Right.
Georgia money getting, so it's going to help state,
yes,
in every state over there. So I always thought, crowdfunding, one of the things that I got interested in the crowdfunding was, spending money, and with your own community, so the kids doesn't need to go to Silicon Valley, or they can stay in your family, right here. So because invest in your kid, invest in your peers and peer-to-peer. So I think it will work out very well. So they are waiting for that. They're waiting for.
Yes.
So do you think I'm going to ask you. We have a panel tomorrow about intrastate crowdfunding. Jeff, you're part of it, but. Do you see that, state is legal, but it's just limited to what you can do? So you think when that Job Act SEC is passed, do you think it's tremendous? Deal flow is going to be,
I think
it's going to change, game changer?
Yes, I think it's a natural marriage, because the product that they're selling is a concept. It's interesting, it's salacious, and you can participate. Just think about it. You can, just on the reward side, being part of something cool, a cool movie, but then being able to, on the equity side, literally own a piece of a successful movie it's a dream for many people, and being more involved in movie projects. And people want to be more involved in movies. So that's where advertising is working towards. Every one of these shows in Georgia, Walking Dead, what have you, have social media and other ways for the fans to get more involved. And so this is a natural evolution to get more involved in terms of putting a small amount of money into it.
I still like Smokey and Bandit. Jeff, what is your thought about this? You do a lot. You're advocated about intrastate, and as I mentioned, what do you think is, are you ready for the nationalize this? Your man went to the 500. So do you think is basically when this thing's evolved in the national level, what do you think is your position is going to be?
Yeah, so my platform is intrastate only, and we've been advocates of that model from the get-go. It's interesting, if this conference if we were sitting here a year ago, that banner wouldn't be up here right now.
Intrastate crowdfunding.
Exactly.
I like that.
It would not have been up there. It is only as folks have evolved their thinking to understand the limitations of the Jobs Act as it's currently written, that they've looked into alternatives, and they've seen that there really is crowdfunding happening, and it's happening right now. We don't have to wait on what's happening on the national scene. So from our perspective, interstate, and my partner Megan will be here tomorrow on that specific panel, so I don't want to take up too much time to talk about it now. But in response to your question specifically, what I think is going to happen when the Jobs Act rules come into place, and then hopefully as we see Jobs Act 2.0 at some point down the road, is that you're going to have specific industries that are natural fit for interstate crowdfunding because their product is agnostic to state lines. That's the thing that people aren't focusing on. Let's look at what the product is, right? So we see people all the time that say, I want to do a crowdfunding raise, I'm waiting on the Jobs Act. Well, what's your business? Well, I have a coffee shop. Well, why? I mean, why do you think that somebody in Washington or Nevada or California is going to give you money for your coffee shop? It's ridiculous. If you're going to get money for it, you're going to get it from in-state. And so, a project like a film project, that's a very natural fit for an interstate crowdfunding raise because it's something that's totally agnostic to state lines. If you have a consumer-based product that's agnostic to state lines, go with the Jobs Act. It makes sense. But if you have something that is local in character, why not use the interstate exemption and save yourself a whole bunch of money?
So you think they can coexist to national end interest?
I think they can, and I think they will. And eventually, most transactions by dollar value will be Jobs Act transactions. Most transactions by volume will be interstate transactions. To me, that's just obvious.
Okay, well, that's good. Joseph, I know you go to a lot of conferences and you're different places and you speak and you see everywhere from, and thanks for being here, by the way, coming to West Coast. And what do you see? What are we going here? I mean, everybody in the same question as Jeff. Is it going to be a game changer? Are we going to be waiting? I know you're in reward, but is it going to change anything on this Title III? Or are we waiting for the, by the way, I have to say Title III is not, for audience,
yeah,
is not
so sure about
Title III, and everybody now talking those Title IV raise about, $500,000, I mean, and that's those kind of thing. What do you see? Where are we going right now?
Well, I can really only speak for our space, and it's like my colleague said here, for the entertainment industry, it's a game changer. It's a natural fit also for YouTube channels. If you don't want to buy Google stock for $1,000, maybe you want to buy into a YouTube channel for a smaller amount. Also, for digital video web series, we often don't have very good perks. If you're not pre-selling a Pebble Watch or a piece of hardware, then it's sometimes hard for people to come up with something that supporters actually want to spend money on. So if I say, hey, Sydney, I'm starting my new YouTube channel and give me $100 and I'll send you a t-shirt, that may not sound so attractive to you. But if I say, hey, look, you can invest in my YouTube channel, here's my plan, this is what I want to do, this is going to be big time business, and you feel like, if I become successful, you'll get a piece of the action, I think it changes the whole value proposition. So I'm super excited about it, and I think it like my colleague said, it will be a game changer.
How many people do you experience? How many people did they come to your website? They said to Tube Start.
All right, now it's several thousand. I don't know off the top of my head.
They've been doing
yeah,
some
but
stuff.
the way we look at rewards-based crowdfunding on TubeStart right now is we're really just getting our feet wet. I mean, we are preparing for something equity, whatever it will be.
But you're one of the 10 rank in the crowdfunding. When you put the word crowdfunding, you guys come up over there. So you have
because I'm really good at SEO.
You got to tell us that. But good thing. And that's another thing that I like. That we should mention to the audience at home, because crowdfunding and social network work. If you want to do crowdfunding, you got to know about your social networking. And social networking becomes so very, very important in every corporation, every businesses that. They have a title right now. I mean, there is not to be a social manager, social media manager, but there is a title for that. So it is very important. If you do a campaign, if you're doing it for your company, if you're doing it for your own company, well, very, very important to take a look at that over there. Rodney, what is next? I mean, I know you go a lot to Washington. You've got powerful, knowledgeable friends, and in industry, and what do you see? What do you see we're going to be going into this next 6 months with the SEC and other things in the plate right now? What is your prediction?
Well, I mean, just to reiterate, I think we'll all be optimistic, if Title III moves forward. But of course, with all the limitations, I hope what it inspires is just an interstate trace. Every state to look at what it can do as a response to Title III. Richard and others have suggested that. When I do go to DC, I'm also, everybody talks about Title I, II, III, IV, V. VI, there's also a Title VII of the Jobs Act. And Title VII is specific to diversity and inclusion outreach under the Jobs Act. And so I think as Title III moves forward, which we should look for the next 3 to 5 years, is education, 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 exposure, exposure, exposure. I'm looking at this from a 20-year, like a generational perspective. Like, okay, let's start talking to the millennials. 2 weeks ago, I pitched to, I basically exposed 46 college presidents. These are 46 historically black colleges and universities through the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. We did a panel on crowdfunding one day to the business deans, and then I did a panel the next day to the presidents of the colleges and chancellors themselves. And like you said, most of them hadn't even heard of the term crowdfunding. And so when I go to DC, I'm saying whether it's rewards, perks, equity, a hybrid, etc., we have to make crowdfunding a household name. And I think that should be a fundamental, fiduciary of all of us, is whether or not it's we stand to benefit economically from it, is that we make crowdfunding a household name first. And then I think over the next 5, 10, hopefully the next generation, when you come from a culture where there's no startup capital, you don't know what an accredited investor is, your uncle can't stroke you a check, you have no options, the SBA is not going to fund you, everybody's not going to get on Shark Tank or the profit. So when you start looking at your options, crowdfunding is pretty much all you have. It's a fundamental game changer. I mean, if education is primary, if it's embraced, and then people understand this. 2 things, and I'll close with this. And I said this to my hashtag at the closing comments at the SEC earlier this year were, failure is not fraud. We have to teach early investors that just because you invest in a startup, most of them fail. Bold red letters. But failure is not fraud, because in the meantime, jobs are created. So when you look at kind of, unemployment in America and communities that it disproportionately impacts, even if I have to invest just to create a job, just to keep you from stealing from me, to me that's a winner, okay? To keep you out of the hospital because your poverty, predisposes you to health disparities, and if we can get you a job and get you skills and get you knowledge, and then you can deal with your health better, to me it's so many indirect opportunities to address society's issues. And so when I do talks, I say, you know what, equity crowdfunding really isn't about you making money. It's about, are you willing to invest in your community to create opportunity for that issuer, that startup company, or that early stage company, or whatever stage they're in, to help create more jobs to make the community a whole. And if by chance I do get a return, okay, because all of my investments shouldn't be in private equity or alternative investments anyway, but if I do get a return, then that's extra. And so that's how we lead in our conversations. I think if you lead with, I'm going Wild Wild West style. I got $2,000, $10,000 a year, and I'm going to put it across 100 companies, and I know one's going to hit. I don't think that's the mentality. And I hope the ecosystem gets that from the association level to the platforms, all of the enthusiasts. There are no experts. There are only enthusiasts right now. I think that's the fundamental opportunity that we have.
Yeah, I consider that, you guys are doing this tirelessly. You go to a lot of events, Joseph and Jeff and Letitia, Boy, Peter, and, all of us, we have this passion about, we are in different aspects of this finance or crowdfunding, but it's all about community. We're passionate, not just because of the money, Michael, and Billy over there, and it's all success stories happening with this social media and other things over there, but it's all, and I love that, that's drive me, hearing somebody like you and, talking about, giving back to community. Don't let the kids just go to the Silicon Valley. We can keep them here. We can just, kind of take them to the next level. That's what you did with, Bohemian Guitar. But I see all this passion, that's what we come all the way from West Coast, East Coast, New York, different everywhere that I go, and we share this passion, and that's amazing. And not only here. I mean, I go to England and on different places. In Canada, I just were over there, and that shows that how powerful this crowdfunding is, how much helps to the community, how much helps to that particular brand that they just want to start. And just Bohemians, what would they have? They didn't have anything. They just had some idea to putting nice, beautiful guitar on the oil can, which is olive oil can, wasn't it? Is it the olive oil?
Originally, they start with old petroleum oil cans, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds great. I mean, now
and
that
old
they were
lunch
everywhere.
boxes, actually, too.
Yeah, and other stories of it that we're all very passionate about. But it goes back, that how crowdfunding work. And I always, when I go to the event like you guys over here, and I talk to people, people that we're in the middle of the export here and among ourselves. But I always come up with this thing say that we have a African American president in this country because of the crowdfunding, because there was $50 donation under $100 million, $50 donation that we contribute to the President Obama campaign. So we've done is very powerful in community, is very powerful in politics, is very powerful for minorities, is very powerful for women. So it is so we all have come together and kind of get this thing and kind of guard this industry. So it's very, very interesting to see that. And we have Dr. Swart, we have people in academic world that they are basically embrace that. They give basically legitimacy to this what we do over here. So it's all academic. World banks are doing this thing. So it's very, very interesting over there. I want to give you start with your final thought, then we're going to wrap up here. And I know you said what do you think about over there, but I just want to have your last. You have the chance. I'm not going to question. What is your last statement? Yeah, last word, not last word today. I know you do. Tell us about your radio, your TV show, and tell us about how many audience. What is it on what the website is?
Yes, Wright Place TV, WRIGHT PlaceTV.com. You can watch it online, but we are nationally syndicated to Dish on Demand. The show's about 14 years old, and I was doing this before everybody. Mama had a show on entrepreneurs and on YouTube and all of that. And I've always been on broadcast TV, and the last 5 years I've been making a big push for internet television also. I interview entrepreneurs and talk about how to move their business forward. I'm enamored with crowdfunding, as people can see, and so I'm starting to pull those experts in there. Your platform, I don't know if you got my email. I think you didn't get my email because you got an invite. So I always talk to platform owners about crowdfunding and bring on different experts. And so we're doing that. And Right Place TV has been awesome. It has been, my bread and butter for about 14 years now. I'm very excited. So my last words will be what I always say on my show. Ignoring one's conscience is neither safe nor right.
Good. Well said. All right. Can you follow that?
Last words to live by. I like that.
Yeah, we're going to go get ready for the party here. It has been a long day.
No, my last words, Sydney, I appreciate this conference and everything that you put into it. So I just want to say thank you for having us all here, and I think it's been a great day overall. I don't really have any last words except thank you for having us, and looking forward to the future.
Crowdfunding. Thanks very much.
Yep.
Peter, what are we going to be? What is your last word? Usually the councils, they have one of those, closing statements. So what is this? You're ready for that.
Tough act to follow, and I know there's a cocktail party following my statement, so I have to be careful what I say, not make it too long. But no, I'll say this. I really think that, at least in my world, in my segment, entertainment, crowdfunding has not reached critical mass in terms of knowledge, and I'm sure it's like that in other verticals. And I just think that we're close. I mean, I think it's going to hit critical mass in the next year, and I think there's going to be a huge disruption and game change in film funding.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I mean, I think the expected and feared by many regulators land rush into this area is not what happened. What you will see in the experience from other countries is this takes time to grow. You have to meet the consumers where they are, and then you have to lead them to what's next. You can't put what's next out there and just simply expect that overnight everybody's going to adopt it. You have to meet consumers where they are, and then you have to lead them to what's next. And I do believe that crowdfunding is next. And I think, if we can meet the consumers where we are, we're going to be able to lead them to that place.
What else is there still to say? We're all here to learn. At least I am, and I'm meeting so many interesting people here, and this enthusiasm that you spoke to earlier is what really excites me. I always tell people I don't know what it's going to be like in 5 years, but the genie is out of the bottle. It's not going back in, and it's going to be great.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve. I'm glad everything worked out. I solicit your prayers because we're about to, or goodwill, because we are embarking upon hopefully what will be the largest closed raise for equity for the general public. We want to make Bohemian Guitars proud because they set the way, and of course with the Spark Market. And follow our progress. We launch next Friday officially, and so we have been a champion for the act, an advocate or educator, and now we're going to become a user as well. If you are in the state of Georgia, I definitely encourage you to look at sparkmarket.com when we launch. On social media, 500 founders, hashtag 500 founders will be our kind of hashtag for this campaign. And we're gonna go for it. We're gonna build an ecosystem, and we believe that now is the time to establish that precedent. Now I'll leave you with this. I usually say this at all of my talks. So a mind without barriers creates ideas without limitations.
We should say that scores that this is going to be only within the state of Georgia, that the platform you're referring to.
Absolutely. The equity part will be using Georgia's Invest Georgia exemption, so you can only buy shares if you are a Georgia resident or entity. We will offer perks for any and everyone that wants to support the ecosystem that we're building nationwide. But equity will be Georgia residents only. So there's still time for you to relocate if you want to be a part of it, right?
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you being here. And just want to say for the audience at home, it's been a great day here at Atlanta, Georgia, at the Cobb Galleria. We had a great expert, and I learned a lot. This video of this broadcast is going to be in the crowdfunding. We have a second day. We have going to talk about, as Jeff mentioned, with Megan and other people and some of the Georgia locals that we're going to talk, and also North Carolina. We're going to have Mark Isley, which is one of the. So we're going to have a great day tomorrow. It's a half a day. So we're going to talk more about the intrastate. We're going to have a workshop, but this has been a very, very good day for us here in Atlanta, Georgia. We see good things are going to happen, hopefully. And this is Sydney Armani with a crowdfund beat saying so long. Thank you.